how can you be seen as an expert so that people want to hire you? Today, I want to share a new and different strategy for communicating expertise that most don't know about and certainly don't know how to do. And I'm excited to share this with you today because it has been a game changer for hundreds of my students. Being able to communicate your expertise to your prospects is critical if you want a thriving business that attracts great clients, that can get higher prices, and that can close clients more easily. But many people are approaching this challenge of trying to communicate their expertise and their value without understanding the entire picture of how their audience is interpreting it. So first, why is communicating expertise such a challenge? Most people think that communicating expertise is all about your messaging. But I've learned that it's not only really difficult to communicate expertise through good marketing copy alone, I've actually found it's impossible when you are an expert at something to explain it to a non-expert. And I want to prove that to you right now. Think about it this way. In order to truly understand and appreciate something, you have to have some knowledge of it. Imagine a person who is really expert in a field that you know nothing about. Let's take something like quantum physics. When somebody with a PhD in quantum physics starts explaining to you all the things they know about quantum physics in order to convince you that they're an expert, how exactly are you, as someone who I assume doesn't know much about quantum physics, how are you going to truly evaluate and understand how well they know the subject? You can't. You don't have enough information about the subject to really evaluate how well they know it. Which is why in many fields where it's really important to be able to evaluate someone's level of expertise, like being a doctor, there's a system with legal credentials that you have to have. If we had to know enough about medicine and the human body to evaluate whether a doctor was even qualified to treat us, how would we ever be able to make a decision on whether or not to hire somebody? But in many fields that solopreneurs that I advise are in, there are no credentials that can demonstrate how good you are at what you do. And that's the position that a lot of people that come to me are in. Even if they do have credentials, like maybe they're a licensed therapist, so do all of their peers. So it isn't enough to stand out and show how much more they know. What does everybody do in this situation? Everyone tries to explain why they're better. But I just showed you, you can't really explain how expert you are to a non-expert because they don't understand enough to truly evaluate what you're saying. And if you can't explain what makes you such an expert to non-experts, how are you supposed to do the very thing that's necessary to get hired by those exact people? Here's the new game-changing strategy. You must demonstrate your expertise to them instead. You cannot explain it. No matter how great your website, your copy, your tagline, your brand, those things are very important because they get the conversation started. But if you want the prospect to really see what makes you better, it must be experienced by them. Now, this might sound impossible, right? Because how do you demonstrate your expertise before you've been hired to actually do the work that would demonstrate your expertise? You build a step into your sales process where the non-expert customer can pay to experience your knowledge and expertise. Unfortunately, the way that most people apply this idea is to offer a free strategy session. But this is the worst thing you can do because what you're really communicating with that is that your time is not valuable because you're willing to give it away for free. And that's a topic for a different video, and I'll get to that at another point. So I want to give you an example that illustrates this point beautifully. I had a client who is a really excellent SAT tutor, and she's not only a math whiz and a writing whiz, but she's also incredible at communicating with her students to get them to learn the material. But she also has a superpower. She can very quickly narrow in on exactly what the real core issue that a student is having simply by looking at their score sheet from a sample test. I kid you not. Just by seeing where their wrong answers are, how much of the test they finished, or how much time they had left, and a bunch of other things I don't understand, she's not only able to put together a highly customized curriculum that goes much deeper than simply learning the content, and is actually working on their ability to interpret the information better, but she's actually been able to more than once diagnose a learning disability simply by looking at a sample test score sheet. Now, I know that sounds crazy and like magic, and you might be thinking, wow, that should be her message, but it shouldn't, and it's not, because it sounds crazy, and honestly, it's too difficult for someone who doesn't understand the ins and outs outs of her world to even really understand or possibly even believe that she's able to do this. I'm trying to explain it to you now, and you're probably a little skeptical. So she doesn't try to explain it at all. Instead, we built a brand and message and business structure with a sales process that gets the right people in front of her, and then as the initial step to working with her, she demonstrates this for a fee. And once she does this for a client, they are in complete amazement at how quickly she's able to accurately know so much about their kid and the challenges that they've been having in school and on tests. And once they experience that, an almost intangible value that they didn't even know they were looking for, they didn't even know existed, they will pay whatever she charges to work with their children. And that is how she was able to more than double her already very high prices after a few months. That's the goal here. Stop trying to explain your expertise to clients because they will not understand you and you will stay stuck in this rut. And do not offer free strategy sessions to demonstrate your expertise because you are simultaneously communicating that you are not an expert because you don't have valuable time. Your time is not valuable. Instead, in order to communicate something that you know that they don't, you must have them experience your expertise instead. And you must charge them for this step so that they value the experience.